which drafts leap out at you? Which ones you go, okay, that checks a lot of boxes, that handles business, whichever one. I know I'm going macro with you here. You go for it.
You know, and it's kind of like, I respect the hell out of teams that know who they are.
Okay.
That philosophically have they know. You've heard me talk about the Baltimore Ravens forever.
Right.
And it's for a reason. When Ozzie Newsome was there, they knew who they were and they knew how they were going to draft. Eric DeCosta was in the building with him all those years, and nothing's changed. So if the board dictates, they'll move up. They're not afraid to move up. If they have a chance to move down and the board dictates, they move down. But if the board's falling their way, they have the patience to stick and pick. And at 27, they get Malachi Starks from Georgia, who smells like a Raven. And I knew from about October that he was going to be a Raven. Okay?
Yeah.
He's got an edge about him. He loves ball. He can play nickel end safety. Mike Green, they get him at 59. I had him at 15 to Atlanta. He had the off-the-field stuff. So there's an asterisk there. But he's a big-time player. And Emory Jones, sitting there in the third round at 91, if he doesn't start this year because he's got some developmental components to his game, I think he's going to start the next 8 to 10 years at right tackle for the Ravens. So I look at that group of guys, and as you go down, there are guys like even in the 6th round, like Longer Beam from Rutgers, Peebles, the defensive tackle, undersized D tackle from. I mean, that's a Ravens draft. I love that. And then I think somebody who's developed a similar identity, and for 30, 40 years they had none, is the Detroit Lions, right? I look at the Lions and go, okay, Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, they know who they are. They get Tyleik Williams at 28. A lot of teams thought he'd be available late in the 2nd round. They take him late in the 1st. Love his play. My favorite player, and one of my favorites in the entire draft, is Tate Ratledge. In scouting parlance, we call him a dirtbag, okay? And that's said really lovingly, because he's one of those guys that when the whistle sounds, he might nudge you around a pile. He might spit some tobacco on you by mistake. He's the kind of guy that you love him as a teammate, and you hate him when you have to play against him. He played through injury this year, just like a Dan Campbell, Brad Holmes guy. And this next kid, Tesla, most people thought that he was a 5th or 6th round pick. Brad Holmes went to the Senior Bowl, had never seen tape of him. The first drill he saw was a blocking drill, and Tesla was bullying defensive backs and linebackers and laughing at them. They weren't happy with him. So what does he do? He goes back, he watches the film, loves the special teams. He moves up from 102 to 70 to pick a guy, and gave up 2 third-round picks next year to get a guy that a lot of people thought was going in the 5th or 6th round. And my point to you is not, some people might say that's not smart. You're not maximizing value. What I would tell you is they're getting exactly the kind of kid they believe in their building. They do it every year. They don't care if it's the Campbell kid a year ago, the linebacker from Iowa 2 years ago. Everybody said, oh, you don't take an off-the-ball linebacker. And they're like, the hell with you. We're taking our kind of guy. So Baltimore is a club that's done it for 30 years, and Detroit's a club that with 2 new faces in the building have completely changed who they are.
Well, then let's also, while you're on a roll here, Mike, talk about a guy that I know you like talking about. Howie Roseman did it again, man. I mean, Jihad Campbell at 31, it was one of those moments on our set where we're just looking at each other, we're shaking our heads because he did it again. Like it's Obi-Wan Roseman, where and the number of draft choices he already has next year are remarkable. He's already got, I think, a 1, 2 2s, and 3 3s for next year. And this is the defending Super Bowl champs who are already getting stronger. I don't know how he continues to do it. And I'm wondering what's the general sense of how it's done with him, Mike?
We don't have enough time for that. But I did tell you, I think before that, in his first go around with the Eagles, Chip Kelly came in and ended up getting ultimate power in the building. And Jeffrey Lurie, the owner, sat him down and they said, how do we get better? How do you get better as a GM why you don't have the power in the building this year because of Chip. And they sent him around the world meeting with soccer teams in Europe, GMs in the NBA, all kinds of different places to get a different thought process than just the way he came up through the Eagles organization. And then when he ultimately regained power, this is a brilliant guy that understands salary cap way more than most GMs. He's open to feedback from his people, and he's typically ahead of what he's a contrarian. He's ahead of everyone else when it comes to where the league's heading. And, the whole league, 5 years ago, I said this league, we've become such a pass-first league. What's the defense's reaction? Well, they're getting smaller and quicker. So what does Howie and the Eagles do? They run the ball more than anybody else in the NFL to win a Super Bowl last year. I think the guy's brilliant. I think he did it again. He tried to get up to get Campbell at 22 or 23, apparently. Couldn't make the trade with the Chargers. And gets Campbell, who I had number 9 to New Orleans. I had this, and because of some injuries, he slid. Howie's like, yeah, we got no problems with the medical. We're good. He gets him at 31. They get the safety, Makuba from Texas, who's a really good player at 64. And then Rich, he traded down in the third round twice from 96 to 111, okay? Which is about 15 or 16 picks, the equivalent of half a round. And with those 2 trade downs, he picked up 3 extra draft picks, 2 this year, 1 next year. Look at those 6th round picks there. Miles Hinton and Cameron Williams. They're going to go to University of Stoutland this year.
Nice.
Okay. And there are 2 talented dudes. This Cameron Williams kid jumps off the tape, but he's lost. Like, he doesn't have balance, has a lot of habits he's going to have to break. But between the 2 of them, trust me, Stout's going to turn at least one of them into something special. And I believe the Eagles did it again.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show live weekdays from 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern on Roku Sports Channel in the U.S.